Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here on Wednesday, April 24th. Just a quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up picking up our third straight loss with the Atlanta Braves money line at minus 108. Unfortunately, the bullpen came in the middle of the game after a 4-3 lead in the sixth inning. And then Jesse Weddle, I believe his name is, faced three batters, walked all three of them, and ended up going down 7-4. It ended up being 7-6 in the eighth with a guy on third, one out, strikeout, ground out to second, and then ended up being guy on second with no outs. And Albies had one of the worst sacrifice bunt attempts I've ever seen. Popped it to the catcher, and then you had Donaldson miss a home run by about 3 inches, and then you had Freeman ground out the first end of the game. So we ended up getting a loss. It is what it is. Gossman was okay. He ended up giving up 2 runs in the sixth, which hurt us. But overall, you take a 4-3 lead in the sixth, we should be pretty confident with that. Sonny Gray eventually fell apart, which we expected, and it is what it is. The Reds' offense finally came alive as we ended up getting another loss. As for today, as you can probably tell by the title, I'm not going to force another play of the day today because I don't really like anything on the board that much. So instead of doing that, I will just do my leans for the playoff games today, as well as some MLB games that some of you might want me to cover in the comments section below. But with that being said, we're just going to get started with the NBA. We're going to be talking about the Utah Jazz and the Houston Rockets in this game. Total started at 213 down to 212.5, and Houston was originally at minus 8.5, and they're up to 9 in one spot. They're at 8 in Pinnacle, mostly at 8.5. The line hasn't really moved that much. In terms of this game, it's a pretty tough game to handicap, honestly. I'd have to lean Houston based on the fact that Houston would have won game 4 had they not gone cold from 3 and only scored 12 points in the fourth quarter of game 4, I should say. So based on that, I have to lean to Houston. And in terms of the total, I would lean to the over in this game, especially with an elimination game. Utah's going to get desperate if they're down by a decent amount fouling down the stretch. But I think that if Houston hits their threes and Donovan Mitchell does what he did in game 3, this game should go over the posted total. Other than that, you have the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers. Total opened up at 235 down to 232, and the spread went from minus 14 to minus 14.5 and even minus 15 in some spots. As people know, we had a bad beat with the Warriors in game 4 when we took the 8.5 and they only won by 8. In terms of this game at 14.5, I'm actually going to lean to the Clippers here, plus the points. I think Golden State's going to win the game, and I think that's definitely obvious that Golden State's going to win the game here. But overall, I do think the Clippers will be able to cover in the back door in this game. It strikes me as the kind of game where Golden State will come out up 20 after 3 or so, and then the Clippers will try to crawl back in late in the game. Warriors might pull some people late if they're up by double digits, and the Clippers will come to the back door. I think the Warriors are going to win this game by double digits, but I think they'll win this game by 10 or 11. And I think that 14.5 or 15 is just a little bit too many points for me to feel comfortable laying with the Warriors in the spot. And in terms of the total, I'll lean to the under. Golden State, even though they're a great offensive team, they have done really well defensively at stopping the Clippers since that second half of game 2. And I think that the Golden State will be able to hold the Clippers to roughly 110 points or so. So I think this game will go under the posted total. Moving on to hockey, just a brief recap of actually some of the hockey game that happened yesterday. Bruins won like we thought. We just thought that the Bruins would be able to handle Toronto. Toronto missed a chance at game 6. Somebody asked me about Bruins in regulation in the chat yesterday, and I recommended they should take it. I saw it was available at plus 105 or even money in some spots. Bruins just came out, looked like the more confident team. Toronto kept turning it over in their own zone, and the Bruins took care of it. And then at the end, the late game was definitely worth the wait as the Sharks and Vegas Golden Knights took part in probably one of the most memorable periods I've ever seen in my life in hockey. Game looked like it was a wrap. Vegas was up 2-0 entering the third, turned into 3-0 early in the third. Game looked over. And then next thing you know, there's a 5-minute major going on because Pavelski got cross-checked. Whether or not it was a 5-minute major remains to be seen. Apparently there is a rule in the NHL rulebook that says that a cross-check that causes an injury to another player could be deemed 5 minutes by the referees. But in terms of the actual call, I thought it was a penalty. in terms of 5-minute major, when I first saw it, I thought that was an awful call. I thought that was the definition of a 2-minute minor, just based on the fact that it looked like it was a cross check. It was off a face-off. It looked like somebody just shoved Pavelski and he was off balance. But overall, I think that I think that the Sharks themselves got very fortunate with the 5-minute major call. But then again, even if you questioned whether or not it was 5 minutes or not, Vegas can't allow 4 power play goals in that 5-minute stretch. You can't allow that on any circumstance. Vegas should have looked into using a timeout. They should have tried something, because whatever they were trying wasn't working. And the Sharks' power play was awful the entire series, and they scored 2 power play goals in the first 50 seconds of the 5-minute major with Pavelski, who's one of their key power play contributors, off the ice. I think that's a pathetic showing by Vegas late in that game. And props to Vegas for coming back and sending it to overtime. Yeah, Mitch, in terms of the game itself, I thought it was nuts. But the Sharks, they got fortunate because they're also playing Colorado in the second round, and they don't have to play Calgary. In terms of that, I do like San Jose to win that series in roughly 6 games. I'm still a little bit concerned with their inconsistent defense, the Sharks. But overall, a team that's able to come back from 3-1 down in the series, as well as being able to come down 3-0 in the third period of Game 7. I think that's definitely a stepping stone in the right direction for the Sharks, as this team could pick up a quote-unquote team of destiny kind of vibe, as the Sharks will look to potentially make it back to the Stanley Cup for the first time since they lost to the Penguins a couple of years back in I believe it was 5 games, I think. But either or, that was one of the best periods I've ever seen in hockey. And the fact that the Sharks were able to come away with a win, props to Tomas Hertl for making the bold prediction that the team would come back after being down 3-1. And he ended up scoring the shorty in Game 6, and he contributed in Game 7 as well. And overall, that was definitely one of the best games I've ever seen in hockey. But moving on to tonight's action, we have another Game 7. Lucky us. It's actually the last day before the second round of the playoffs, as the second round of the playoffs will be starting on Thursday. But for today, you have Carolina versus Washington. Totals around 5.5, mostly at -120 with heavy juice to the under. And, of course, the Capitals are favored at roughly -145, up to -150 in some spots. In terms of the total, I'm going to lean to the under in this game. I know that Washington's last game was 6-0 at home against Carolina. I know that Carolina's offense looked great in Game 6. But overall, it is Game 7. I expect both teams to play relatively conservatively. We saw that in the first 2 games. Boston ended up going over because of a 0.1 second goal by Patrice Bergeron. But that game was a dead under and a bad beat if you had the over. I mean, it was a bad beat if you had the under. The under was clearly the right side. And even the same with the Vegas game. Totals at 6. It's 3-0 halfway through the third period. And then you get a 5-minute major. Before the 5-minute major, that game was going under as well. I saw that game ending somewhere around 4-1, maybe 4-0. I don't know. But overall, that looked like an under. In terms of the games here, both goalies have actually played pretty well with Holtby and Mrazek, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this game finish somewhere around 3-2. I think this game's going to be a nail-biter. I think that Washington should win this game because they're at home. But Carolina, I don't know. The home team's won every game so far. But I definitely think Carolina's a live dog in this game. And I think the fact that Washington's only laying -145 is a testament to the fact that Carolina has a shot in this game. Boston was only laying 140 in the game yesterday, and Toronto's a significantly better team than Carolina. Overall, I think Carolina's played well against Washington. I think that the last game that they had, the 6-0, I thought that Carolina had a couple chances early. They missed out. Washington capitalized, and then the wheels fell off in the third period. And Carolina also has Mr. Game 7 in Justin Williams, who's 7-1 in his career in Game 7 with 14 points in those 8 Game 7s. And fun fact, their franchise has never lost a Game 7. They are 4-0 in Game 7s since their inception. And overall, in terms of who I think is going to win the game, it would not surprise me if Washington wins this game naturally because of the fact that they're the home team. But Washington, besides the one Stanley Cup that they have last year, they do have a choker label on them, and they do tend to underperform in the playoffs. And I would not be surprised to see Carolina sneak through the back door and win this game somewhere around 3-2. So in terms of value, I'd actually lean to Carolina money line here. I think that Washington has a great shot, but I do think that Oshie's injury is very underrated. And Washington looked great without him in Game 5, looked awful without him in Game 6. I think that Carolina can definitely win this game without Oshie in the lineup for Washington, and I will be leaning to the Carolina Hurricanes to win this game. And if you wanted to put a little extra something on it, I would potentially consider, or if you want a safety play, Carolina plus a half in the first 60 minutes definitely makes sense, as this game could go to overtime and then Washington could win in overtime. But I think this game will definitely be close throughout, and I think that Carolina has a lot of value on their side going at a decent, underdog price in this game. But if anybody has any questions or any games they want me to cover in baseball, we can go over those now. Other than that, even though I have no play of the day, I can give some of my leans that I thought about giving for play of the day that I ended up not giving. Overall, it just hasn't been a good couple of days for us, and I feel like it would be best if we just took a day off, take a little breather, try to, regather ourselves a bit. But overall, anyone have any questions they can ask? If not, then I'll just go on to my leans for the day. As of right now, ESPN's MLB stuff is glitching out on me, but it's fine. I got something else. Okay, so in terms of games that I like, let me just look at this briefly. I lean to the over in the Atlanta-Cincinnati game. We saw yesterday Cincinnati's offense was awful the entire season so far, but they ended up coming alive, and Atlanta's offense is great every time. I'm not a big Tanner Rourke guy. Soroka's okay, but I think that Cincinnati's offense finally gelled a little bit yesterday, and I think that 9.5 is a little bit too low, especially with Atlanta's bullpen, and Cincinnati's bullpen wasn't great yesterday either. So I'd lean to the over 9.5 in that game between the Braves and the Reds. Other than that, I lean to the Oakland A's team total over in that game, as well as the first 5 team total over. The A's offense has been great this series. They've scored at least 6 runs in both games. Oakland scored double-digit runs yesterday. I think Oakland will be able to get to, I believe it's either Drew Smiley or it's going to be Doughty for the Rangers. I've heard conflicting things on both. Either or, not great pitchers, and Oakland's offense has played extremely well at home, and I think that Oakland will be able to keep it moving offensively, so I would lean to the Oakland team total over as well as the full game over in that one. Other than that, just briefly looking here, decent underdog price with the Mets today. I'm not a big Vargas guy, but the Phillies have been awful in the last week or so, and the Mets offense is still extremely underrated, and the Mets have some value there at a plus price. A lot of money coming in on Philly. I would wait till right before first pitch to make that bet, because I think the line will continue to go up with the Phillies, but I definitely see value on the Mets in that one. Other than that, looking through the rest of the games here, the Yankees I'm tempted by to go for the sweep because the Angels are playing terribly, except the Yankees are still using a double-A lineup because everybody's injured. I know Luke Voigt is absolutely raking right now, as he had another 2 home runs last night, and I believe he has an on-base streak of 34 straight games. He's been great, definitely better than Greg Bird. I can't really complain about that, and I would lean to the Yankees in that one. And other than that, I would lean to the under in the Blue Jays and Giants game today, which is available at 8.5. It was at 9, down to 8.5. You have Pomeranz versus Buchholz. Just been announced that Freddie Galvis, starting shortstop for Toronto, is not going to play, as he will be most likely go on the injured list with a left leg injury. In terms of that game, the Giants still have not scored a run in the first inning the entire season, so I would lean to no score first inning, and I will have a personal play on no score first inning in that Giants and Blue Jays game. So that's personally what I like. But other than that, sorry if you're looking forward to a play of the day, but based on the last couple of days, I will not be forcing the issue, and I will be just looking at these leans and trying to regroup and find a nice play of the day, bounce back winner for tomorrow. But that's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections here on Wednesday, April 24th. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and also comment below if you have any sports questions or insights you want to share with me that you want some feedback on, or even some betting advice in general. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections, and good luck to all of you and your respective bets on this Wednesday. Have a good day, everybody.